Welcome back to our channel, everybody. This is Le Risk Africa, your insurance and protection hub. If you have not clicked on the subscribe button yet, this is the time to make sure that you get notified anytime there's going to be a video on insurance or protection. And today, we are going to talk about how you can build your protection portfolio from scratch by using 4 very important financial tools. So what exactly are we trying to address today? What is the question that we're trying to answer? What we're trying to figure out is how exactly can we protect our investments and our lifestyle, because we know life happens, right? And based on a previous video, which we're going to link down below, we spoke about the 3 main pillars of wealth management. We have the wealth creation, which is what majority of you know. This entails buying assets in order to multiply your wealth. And we have wealth protection, which is now putting in risk management and protection strategies to ensure that this said wealth is going to be protected against the unforeseen, and there's the distribution strategy. So there's this thing that maybe you have gone through, or you know someone who has gone through it. The story goes something like this. Someone or you have been trying to build wealth over a long period of time. You've bought pieces of land, you have bought bonds, you have shares, so that you can accumulate and build your investment portfolio. And then an illness comes from absolutely nowhere. Yes? And it hits you so hard that you have to get admitted. But then, because you try to save a few coins here and there, you did not get some level of protection, even in the form of medical insurance. Then what does this mean? It means that maybe at that point, you or this person it is that you know had to, number one, get into debt. They had to look for money somewhere in order to pay the hospital bills, or they had to actually liquidate these assets to ensure that the hospital bills are paid. And you know what this did and what this does? It takes you so many years back, because everything that you have tried to build goes down literally in a number of days. And this is what it is that we're trying to figure out. How exactly can we ensure that in the case of such an instance, this will not happen to you or to someone it is that you care about? Before we go into how exactly we can build this protection portfolio from scratch to ensure that our wealth and our lifestyles are protected no matter what, we need to address this. What exactly are the factors that threaten our wealth and our lifestyle? Before we even get there, I need to ask you one very important question. Who do you think, or what do you think is the greatest asset? Just in case you did not know, you are your greatest asset. And these are the 3 questions I want you to ask yourself right now. Number 1, what can happen to me or those who are close to me that can affect, number 1, my lifestyle, number 2, my existing savings and investments, and number 3, my ability to provide an income? So let's get into these things that can actually affect and threaten our wealth and our lifestyle. Number 1 is unforeseen illnesses and an accident. Yeah, because we know that if you're to fall sick today and you had no plan, you have to look for that money somewhere. And if you have been building, then definitely it will affect your growth strategy. Number 2, the death of a breadwinner. If there has been someone in the household who has been bringing in an income, and all of a sudden they were to pass away, and there's still children or parents who are dependent on them, it will definitely affect the wealth of the family. Number 3, we have critical illness and even disabilities. So critical illnesses are the extremely serious illnesses like, the cancers, the stroke, heart attack, the ones which make someone stay in hospital for an extended period of time. And this can, in addition, create disabilities due to an illness, or someone can also get a disability through an accident. Number 4, we have a job loss. If you're to lose your job today, it will definitely affect your income and it will affect your lifestyle. And number 5, we have outliving your income. If you have more years than the amount of money you have saved, it will definitely affect the wealth it is that you have accumulated and your source of income. And let's us not forget unforeseen small emergencies. Like, let's say, for example, there has been something that has happened up country and you have to travel. If you have been having a plan aside, you'll have to now maybe stop contributing towards that plan to be able to take care of maybe the damage on the roof, repair of the car if there is no plan. So all these factors we've just spoken about that can actually affect your wealth, can affect your ability to create an income, and it can affect your lifestyle is what we call personal risks. And what exactly is the solution to these personal risks? The solution is having a liquidity plan that will ensure that you have access to funds in the case any of these risks were to happen. And this liquidity plan is what we call your protection portfolio. And your protection portfolio entails of these 4 main financial tools, at least to start off. Number 1, we have your emergency fund. Number 2, we have your medical insurance. Number 3, we have your life insurance with living benefits. And number 4, we have your pension plan. Let's start with the first tool in our protection portfolio, your emergency fund. But what exactly is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is a stash of cash that you set aside for financial surprises that life throws your way. What are these sorts of surprises that life could actually throw your way? Number 1, it could be a leaking roof that you did not see coming. It could be a car breakdown. It could also be an unforeseen trip that you have to take up country. Or it could be a job loss, maybe because you got retrenched, you did not really see that coming. And when it comes to an emergency fund, you have to put this money aside in a place that is easily accessible, because remember, this is an emergency. So we need to be able to dip our fingers in the case this emergency was to happen. So how exactly do you build your emergency fund? And where exactly can you put this stash of cash aside? So when it comes to building an emergency fund, it's important to ask yourself, how many months worth of expenses do I actually want to protect myself or my family? It's dependent on so many factors. Number 1, whether you're employed or not, whether you have children or not. Let me give you an example. Someone who is unemployed or is a businessman has a higher risk compared to someone who's employed, because when you're employed, there's a bit of predictability in your income. When you're not employed, some months might be better than others. So it will be advisable to have a bigger emergency fund as someone who is in business or an entrepreneur, maybe compared to someone who is not. And secondly, if you have children, obviously you have to have a bigger stash of an emergency fund, because now it's no longer just about, you have to put into consideration that there's these children, and if my income has stopped today or there's something that has affected my income today, they will also be affected. So if you're starting out, it's good to start maybe with about 3 to 6 months worth of your monthly expenses, not income, expenses. So it means that you already have a budget, you know how much it is that you spend every single month, and you know that this is the amount of money that I need to set aside so that my lifestyle does not drastically change in the case of an unforeseen circumstance. Yeah. So for someone who has a family and someone who is maybe self-employed, I would advise 6 to 12 months. And as I said, it all depends on your preference, right? And where exactly can you put this emergency fund? I always say it's good to have a bit of money in your bank savings account for same-day emergency, but where ideally will be best to put this money for your emergency fund is a money market fund. And don't worry, I'm going to share a booklet in the link below, which you're going to get a bit more information. And what are the questions you have to ask yourself before you can access an emergency fund? Number 1, is it unexpected? Because if it is something that is expected, you should have had a separate account for that. So let me give you an example. Say, for example, you know that every single year I have to take my car to service, or every single year I have to pay insurance for my car. That is an expense which is expected. So you can have a separate account for that. So you put money aside to take care of that situation. Something that is unexpected is something that literally came out of the blues, right? So before you spend money from your emergency fund, ask, number one, is it unexpected? Number two, is it necessary? Because something could be unexpected and not necessary. Say, for example, your friends were to call you and say, okay, can we go for a trip this coming weekend, my birthday? So going to your friend to Mombasa this coming weekend to celebrate their birthday could be unexpected, but is it necessary? Yeah. And number three, is it urgent? Do we need it like right here, right now? So if you've been able to answer those three questions as an affirmative, that is when you can withdraw money from your emergency fund. We have to understand that there's some emergencies which are too big even for an emergency fund to handle. And one of this type of emergency is what we call a medical emergency. If there's something that can take you to bankruptcy so fast, is an unforeseen medical emergency. And this takes us to our second tool in our protection toolbox, which is your medical insurance. So what exactly is a medical insurance and what is it meant to do? So medical insurance gives us access and provides financial protection against medical costs that come up due to unforeseen illnesses, accident, or even injury. And when it comes to medical protection and medical insurance, it does pay the hospital bills. It pays the doctor's bills so that it does not have to come off pockets, or you don't have to liquidate your investments or get into debt to be able to take care of these bills. When you're building your medical insurance portfolio, number one to start from is NHIF, which is the government-sponsored medical scheme. Very important place to start. Number two, we have your private medical insurance. So when it comes to private medical insurance, there's the budget covers and there's the premium covers. The difference between the budget and the premium covers, the budget covers offer you access to hospitals, which we call tier 2 hospitals. It may not be like now the top hospitals like maybe Nairobi Hospital or the Aga Khan, but it's still hospitals which are decent and you can go and seek treatment in the case of an unforeseen circumstance. And then now there's the premium medical insurance that now gives you access to even a bigger range. So if you have a specific budget, it will be good to look at what exactly it is that you can afford and start from somewhere and build your medical insurance portfolio from there. So let's go to the third tool in our protection toolbox. We have what we call life insurance. So life insurance protects our economic value. Each one of us has what we call an economic value, because remember, at this point, we all have an ability to provide an income. And in the case of a death, it means all the income we could have provided moving forward is lost. And especially if we have people who are dependent on our income, it's going to be so drastic for them, because unfortunately, in as much as yes, the income is gone, but the expenses or the bills do not stop. So it is important, if you have a dependent, anybody who's dependent on your income, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your children, whether it's your own business, your nieces, your nephew, anybody today who is going to be affected if your income is not there, it is extremely necessary to have a life insurance cover. So when it comes to life insurance, it's important to understand why life insurance was created in the first place. Life insurance was created to replace your income in the case of a death, disability, or critical illness. So what it does is that it pays your family a lump sum in the case of a death, or it pays you a lump sum in the case of a critical illness or a disability. So how exactly can we determine the level of life cover it is that we need? It's a rule of thumb is having at least 10 times of your annual income, because when this lump sum is paid out, we know that your family can still survive for a period of time, even if you are not there. But again, sometimes someone does not have to die so for now the income to stop. What are the other things that a life insurance actually takes care of? Number 2, we have critical illness. I know that we've already spoken about medical insurance, and now we have critical illness. What is actually the difference between medical insurance and a critical illness? Medical insurance, remember, takes care of the hospital bills, the doctor's bills. But what critical insurance takes care of is your loss of income because of you falling sick. So a critical illness pays you the lump sum of cash when you get diagnosed. And a critical illness cover takes care of very big, those illnesses which end up being so expensive, like the cancers, the strokes, the heart attack, which medical insurance is not usually sufficient. And we're going to have a separate video which we're going to get in depth into that so that you can understand the breakdown, the benefits, what is not covered, what is covered. So you see now when it comes to a critical illness, that's what it does. It does pays out a lump sum, so you are able to pay some of the hospital bills. It gives you access to cash so you can be able to travel maybe out of the country to be able to seek treatment. And then also, in the case you can no longer work because of this critical illness, that amount of money that is paid out as a lump sum can take care of the day-to-day expenses. Similarly to disability cover. Disability cover can take care of disability due to an illness or an accident. It depends on what exactly it is that you take. So always check out your policy to know what disability your policy takes care of. So in the case also of a disability, say someone got into an accidental disability because they got into a very bad accident and they are maybe paralyzed and can no longer, do what they used to do on a day-to-day basis. They got totally and permanently disabled. This amount of money can be paid out, and it can be used as an income replacement tool so that their family's lifestyle does not drastically change, and also their lifestyle does not drastically change. So how I look at it is this way. When these things do happen, remember, because of the shift of now the unforeseen death or the critical illness or the disability, there's already the emotional burden that the family or you have to bear. But at least when you have a life cover, it takes care of the financial burden so that people can focus on the healing. So we have just spoken about life insurance that takes care of the risk of someone maybe dying too early when people are still dependent on them. But what about the risk of actually living too long? Yeah, because that is a problem when you have longer years than the money that you've actually set aside. So this takes us to our fourth protection tool, which is your pension plan. So your pension plan ensures that you have an income for life when you actually retire. Think about it this way. When you've hit the age of 65, you can no longer, maybe do not have the energy to work as you could work before. So it is important to have a plan in place to ensure that no matter what, that there is a specific income that comes in every single month to take care of the utilities, to take care of your day-to-day expenses so that you do not have to be a burden to anybody. So when you have a pension plan, it will ensure that it takes care of what we call the longevity risk. And when it comes to the pension plan, let me just mention the three main that are out there. Number one, we have NSSF, which is the government-sponsored pension plan. If you're employed, I'm sure your employer already remits this. And if you're self-employed, it will be important for you to just set this aside as well. Number two, we have the employer-sponsored pension. So some employers actually contribute towards the pension of their employees as a benefit. So it will be good to, take advantage of that. If your employer is already contributing, why not? Yeah, accept it. And if he says that, okay, if you contribute this amount, I'm going to match, just contribute because that is extra money into your retirement pot. And thirdly, we have an individual pension plan for people who don't have employers who are sponsoring their retirement or sponsoring their pension, or if you feel that whatever it is that your employer is contributing might not be enough, it's good to supplement it with your individual pension plan. When you are in your wealth accumulation stage, you are in your financial journey, it is extremely important to have your protection portfolio. Think about it this way. If you have a house that is so important to you and you find it extremely dear, will you be feeling safe if you do not have a fence around it or even a security guard in the case of the unforeseen? This is how a protection portfolio comes in to take care of your creation portfolio. Yes, you are building the house. Yes, you have the house of your dreams, but this protection portfolio comes in as a fence to ensure that everything you're building here is not going to be affected by any external factors that you have no control over, that can set you years back and you have to start from scratch. And let's go back to the 4 tools we have just spoken about, which are extremely important, especially when you're starting in your protection journey. We have your emergency fund, your medical insurance, you have your life insurance with living benefits, and your pension plan. At The Risk Africa, we can help you set all these tools in place and build your portfolio from scratch to match where it is that you are at. Currently, we are able to show you in order of priority what it is that you can actually start with and according to your budget. And before I forget, there is a gift for you. We have a free insurance workbook, ebook, which we're going to link in the description box below. The ebook will actually take you through the nitty-gritty of your protection planning, and it will give you even a better idea of how to build your portfolio. And there's places it is that you can actually fill in, and it will guide you on how to build your protection portfolio from scratch. And there's more tools in there for you to consider when it comes to your protection portfolio. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Sharing is caring. You never know who this video could be helpful to as well.